Hey ratbags, it's Jade. Hope you guys are enjoying the Toxic Tangle update. There's a whole bunch of new stuff to go and get, and I'm working on even more guides than I did through the PTB. Most of the guides that I have done for the PTB are actually pretty good right now, but that's not really what we're talking about today. We're talking beyond, already thinking about the future of Grounded 2 and the next updates. And my gosh, you guys are in for a treat, as the next 3-4 months there's going to be packed content coming pretty much month after month. But of course, unlike my fellow Grounded creators, we're not just going to sit here and let me rattle off reading a list that you could do yourself. I'm going to give some context, some speculation, and show you stuff from the leaked files that really strengthens what we're going to actually see in the future. So let's go. Originally, the plans for Grounded 2 would be that updates might take a bit longer than they did during Grounded 1 early access. So instead of every 2 to 3 months, it would now be every 4 to 5 months. The devs have also hinted that that may even still extend a bit more. However, they did announce more feature updates, and that's the something you guys should get really excited for. Playground's update was technically delayed because it was meant to arrive at the same time as the gardens, but I'm actually pretty stoked that this has been delayed. It gives it its own time to shine without everyone getting distracted by lots of big new content. And that's kind of what happened with Grounded 1. Playgrounds actually didn't come out until well after 1.0, where most people had moved on. So we knew this was coming, but we didn't expect maybe if it was going to be a delay, it'd only actually be a delay of about 2 or 3 weeks. It's happening in February. It does seem it's going to be exactly the same playgrounds from number 1, but with all the additions of number 2, like armors, weapons, and obviously a lot of the placeables. So be able to create custom maps, whether it's only down like I did, and yes, I'll be working on only down 2. Story maps, adventure maps, PvP, whatever the weather. One new thing that I'm pretty excited about is they're adding 2 maps. So basically you can have the original grass box from Grounded 1, and that's something the data miners actually found almost within the first few weeks of Grounded 2 being out. And as you might expect, they are going to add the Brook Hollow Park. So that should mean you will be able to go ahead and have all of the story beats in the latest playgrounds that you've encountered already, exploring the park, the beginning of it, and the gardens. Now, we're not going to have to get more details because they didn't actually make it that you could kind of do a proper playgrounds within the story mode until much later. If you tried making a custom map in Grounded 1 in the story mode, you ended up not being able to utilize certain doors as they would still block off a lot of the laboratories, but they eventually changed that. That's exciting because we'll be able to go ahead and make proper like mini DLC. Players are going to be able to build arenas and new places to explore or expand on what's there, almost like a director's cut if they want. So if that does happen in the February update, that's going to be big. But right now it does just list the Brook Hollow Park, so it still might be all the features that you see around Brook Hollow Park, or it could mean it's actually going to be an empty Brook Hollow Park. So you'll have the outskirts, you'll have various different terrains, but in actual terms of things like burgle and maybe picnic tables and stuff like that, that might not be there. We're going to have to wait and see how that transpires. But since they're adding the grass box from the original Grounded 1, I do think this Brook Hollow Park will have all the features that you see now in story mode. So you'll be creating your playgrounds. They're adding new ways to vote. Kind of hoping that will be on like a proper star system instead of just up or down. And maybe not as exciting for some, but hey, you might be playing it. Steam Deck verified and ROG Ally support properly for Grounded 2. Now there's more to come from Playgrounds. We did find in the files that there were references to player racing. So they've got all sorts of widgets and buttons that you can start your own racetracks and have your buggies race. They also added a bunch of stuff as well that you could control how much health enemies had or you had, as well as effects of stamina. So that gives us all different ways to basically make things harder or easier for players as they're traversing a obby map or something similar. But yeah, buggy racing has been confirmed on the roadmap, but it doesn't look like that's going to be arriving until the spring update. So I still think this is big in the game. We'll get a big Playgrounds update and it's going to be pretty huge, with hopefully lots of replayability now for players that want to enjoy it and aren't being sour pussies. I ain't playing that. And just worth a mention, if you hadn't seen my breakdown of the patch notes, there will be a special Valentine's update in February as well. All month you'll be able to get special arrows and lots of chocolates, so it should mean you can bulk up a lot on your smoothies without having to go all the way over to the ice cart. It's pretty much going to be the same event that Grounded 1 had. And then we got the spring update, which technically, unless we're messing around again with different types or meanings of seasons, it should be from the 1st of March till the end of May. And this is where the devs have really gone out, because they're bringing forward stuff that we was going to see right towards the end or maybe in the future of the roadmap. Things like improvements to buggies, more buggies, and buggy mutations. And they really have expanded on it. When will the spring update drop? Probably I'm going to go out on a limb and say at some point in May. It'll be right towards the end. The devs did state in the stream recently when they announced these things, don't expect it to hit as soon as that month begins. It's going to be something towards the middle or the end of each season. So yes, it could be maybe April at best, but don't expect it bang on in March. So yes, they're adding the Black Anthill. Okay, you could view this as, well, this should have been in the game from the start. Or at least the garden update. And I kind of semi-agree, since it is focused on the garden, and obviously black ants are meant to play a big part in gaining access to it. But they clearly have extended and brought things forward. So a tiny little delay has meant that we're actually getting stuff more, because it makes sense. If they're going to add more buggy variants like the Black Ant Buggy, then what better way to have it than when you add the Black Anthill. And obviously the big prediction is going to be we will see a Black Ant Queen added, and that's going to be some sort of boss fight or some sort of way to do what we did in Grounded 1, please her or give her a nice treat, and then she will give us a baby ant. Or it will be just a case of grabbing more eggs. That's probably more the likely option. Did you guys notice there aren't any Black Ant eggs at the moment? So it does make some of the stuff that you can unlock in the current update a little bit lackluster or missing in terms of one of the meals. So I think, yeah, for sure, this Black Ant Hill was meant to have been added as part of the garden update, but it does look like at least we're going to get the benefits of more new stuff added with it. But if there is a Black Ant Queen, maybe we will get another Black Ant pet. Not a buggy, but the pets returning from Grounded 1. We know they're in the files already, and they're pretty much workable. You can even revive them in Grounded 2. Pet ants are meant to be coming back. You're meant to be able to revive them. Now, we assume they'd be just like they are in Grounded 1, and they just follow you around if you don't want to have a buggy. But what instead if you are actually meant to raise your ants in the future, so that they are babies when they hatch, and then they're actually going to have to grow into their ant soldier forms a bit later? That's what could be happening with the spring update. I mean, that's a heavy dose of speculation from me. There's nothing in the files that exactly says that, but I think it'd be such a cool idea. And they have said they do want to make improvements to taming, and we know that the system right now just picking up eggs isn't going to be its final form. It does look like they are going to make it a bit more complicated in the future. Now, Black Ant Queen isn't technically listed, but most of the community are saying it's happening. I thought it might actually be the lizard that would appear as a new creature or a new boss. And the devs actually said in live stream it would be a boss creature, I do believe. But for sure, if they're adding a Black Ant Hill, shout out to Apex Predator, then that absolutely means we're going to be getting a Black Ant Queen. Remembering the Red Ant Queen is dead, which you'll find her in the Spider Den Hill. And although you can have more, it's starting to look more and more likely that actually, no, she's gone for good, and we are only going to get future Queens from the various different variants. So you can actually see where the Black Ant Hill is. I'm pretty sure, 99% certain that this is going to be the entrance to the Black Ant Hill, all the way to the kind of northeast of the actual gardens. I took way too long trying to get into here without using cheats because I didn't have access to them at the time, and I finally managed to do it just through this tiny little crack. I went exploring and it was a labyrinth of tunnels, as you would expect, but lots of underwater sections. Now, of course, this is just maybe placeholder stuff. They may make big changes. It's just an idea to kind of flesh things out. There wasn't many resources or any creatures in here other than just algae. But I don't know, I feel like this is definitely relevant, or the way that they're thinking. The Black Ant Hill may have more dangers. Maybe it might not be water, it might be Tang in the end. But yeah, I'd be extremely surprised if this isn't the Black Ant Hill when it arrives in spring. Okay, then we've got hot deposit improvements. I mean, we desperately need a give all button rather than just a take all. New Orc abilities. Now, at the moment, they are kind of pretty boring, right? All the Orc variants, they just do exactly what they would normally do as a regular bug. So yeah, they definitely need to be ramped up, especially now we've got another type of bug, the Ogres, which are almost identical again to their regular counterparts. There was some suggestions we might see things like maybe laser beams pretty much stapled to certain Orc bugs' heads, but I don't think that's going to be the case. I think it'll be a lot more refined and probably focusing on the bugs' abilities they normally have, but be worse. So, you know, if there's a Orc Bombardier Beetle, instead of just one tiny little explosion when it fires its juice, it'll fire a mega explosion or something along them lines. Does feel like Omnant are the ones that would really put massive structures on bugs and stuff like this. Obviously, we stole the data and we refined it. Whereas the Mysterious Stranger is all about controlling bugs, using the Orc receivers, so she might find a way to amplify their abilities. Again, speculation, but you know, I think it could be very, very much incoming. Buggy buffing, so I'm guessing they're going to get some new buffs, maybe new abilities, maybe you level them up. And that goes hand in hand with the Black Ant Buggy, the Buggy Milk Molars, Buggy Mutations, and the Buggy Buff Hut. So yes, the Black Ant Buggy, which I didn't really talk about too much just now, obviously we're expecting it to be like the upgrade to the regular Ant Buggy. Now it does mean that that would become pretty obsolete, and in most cases I hate it when you've got to chuck away a favourite weapon or piece of armour because you found something else in like an RPG or a looter shooter, but this doesn't feel like that's going to be the case. Like I'm pretty sure there will be a need for the Black Ant Buggies to go through certain routes and stuff that you won't be able to. But I do kind of hope they still make them somewhat reliant or relevant. Maybe these guys can still be used to carry resources, and the Black Ant is instead a sort of speed, maybe combat focused or resource gathering in other ways. So instead of being able to hold lots of grass planks, it can actually chomp through various different tier 2 or tier 3 resources. So things like mushrooms, the new gloom ones, maybe obviously burr and stuff like that. And then eventually if we get fire ants, then they can also then go ahead and do a similar job, and they'll be able to get the highest tier resources that they can. But again, maybe not about carrying certain things like weed stems and stuff. That way it keeps the red ants relevant. But I wouldn't be too sad because it's literally changing the colour, and I can't lie, I prefer black as it turns out as a mount than the red that we've got, the red ants. Buggy milk molars I'm not so keen on. It's already kind of exhausting having to go find the milk molars. I guess it gives you something to do, and it is tied towards giving you buffs and bonuses, but a lot of other survivor games have XP and you level up by doing stuff. Of course, Grounded's never had that. They have made milk molars even easier to find now with things like the scanners and being able to keep track of them on the maps now as well. But I don't know, it might feel a bit tedious if now I've got to go running around finding buggy versions of it. I would rather there was a stat system where, you know, achievements, kill 100 creatures with your Orb Weaver, get an extra attack buff. Although that's probably going to be covered by the mutations. I'm guessing mutations are going to be very, very similar to the ones that we've got in terms of the new passives. Kill certain creatures with a weapon, get better at using that weapon. Also pretty interesting is the Buggy Buff Hut. So we're going to have milk molars to upgrade them, or we're going to have mutations to give them bonuses, but now we've got a buff hut as well. Could it be this? This is in one of the dev worlds. Big shout out to Jace the Grey one for this. And I showed you guys when I was walking around taking a look at some of the armors that would be incoming and some of the old armors shown off on Unreal Engine 4 or 5 I should say, that this was here. Now I did presume, and I am still thinking it is probably still just a concept art for what would become the basically ant nest. But it does say a hut, and this is kind of a hut. Not sure how you get a ladybug in this thing though. But yeah, some sort of structure. Does that mean we're going to have customization of the ants? Could we do something like that with them? Or is it going to be simply a case of that's where we go and do stuff with our ants? Like we have to equip their mutations there rather than in our menus. We have to apply their milk molars there, because it would make more sense instead of just finding a new upgrade suddenly in the Omnant things, as that doesn't really wash with the story or lore. But yeah, still interesting to think about. Now, before we start talking about Ogres Unleashed, what is the mysterious creature above it? It is absolutely going to be the Broodmother, guys. If it doesn't somehow make an appearance in the February update. But how can I be so sure? You've only got to look at the evidence, Your Honour. Right now, you do get some Broodmother chunks as a reward, and you can craft a sour sword. That's it. There's no actual Broodmother decorations, even though they've been shown off in a bunch of the trailers now, including the most recent, as well as a few other social posts. We thought the Broodmother, the new variant, obviously was sour. This was the first data mined version we found. If you do lose your sour sword, how the hell are you meant to make another one unless they're going to be adding the Broodmothers as a roaming spider in the future. But wait, Your Honour, there's more! Shout out to F11 for these. He obviously showed that the Broodmother Fang had just a bag for it, so it's like generic placeholder stuff, or sometimes they just don't bother. So that was in Grounded 1, but take a look in Grounded 2. They've gone and updated and added its own specific Fang model. They're not going to that effort unless we're going to be getting more parts from Broodmothers. And they're not going to be a boss because the dev said it won't return as a boss, and everyone keeps debating this point whether or not the sour version is really a boss. I mean, it is a boss for me. You fight it, you defeat it, it runs away. Well, the stranger does, and the Broodmother dies. But I don't think they'll necessarily add any more Broodmothers as bosses. It will just be a roaming creature. I know I keep talking about the lizard in previous videos, and I definitely think that's still incoming since we've had all the other leaked creatures like the snake and obviously the Broodmother arrive. But I've got a feeling they are saving the lizard for the playgrounds area in the actual game, where it should be lots of sand and stuff. So, Ogres Unleashed, what's that about? Well, we've already encountered some of the ogre creatures. They're actually made by ominous scientists that have gone rogue. That's kind of the vibe I got after going through some of the notes, especially where you pick up the sour seed and they're talking about rebellion against Sloane and stuff. Obviously, you'll go and find that for yourself. But they're literally talking about, yeah, coming up with some rival creatures or a pet that's got out of control. And that pet seems to be a ogre scorpion. And so far I have been a bit disappointed with the ogres. They are just as easy to defeat as the orc versions, but they do give a little bit more bite usually with their attacks. So I'm expecting these to get a big glow up with this Unleashed. We'll find lots more across the yard. And I'm hoping it's actually going to be, by the sounds of it, an active event that will activate to release even more of them. These guys also, noticeably, do respawn. Not sure if it's a bug or it's intended, but where all creatures don't respawn, the ogre variants do. Grab that speculation hat right now. I think it's going to be something to do with Wendell, and that he'll actually help us, and maybe he's been also tinkering around with these ogres. They're definitely not a creation from the mysterious stranger, and for whatever reason we'll need to unleash these to stop the orc variants, but the byproduct of that is that we will then need to take on a lot more of the ogres in certain places too. But yeah, just that word unleashed really does feel like it's going to be a world event. Bit like plugging the haze and unleashing, obviously, the infected. And then with that, you would expect new armor and new weapons. Clearly, if they're going to add a Broodmother in the spring update, we should get the armor. And we've seen some of that in the trailer, like the helm, and a lot of it is in the game files as well. Maybe, just maybe, some ogre variants of kind of weapons as well. And then other stuff like half railings is a community want, complete mushroom set, complete pumpkin set. So yes, curved walls and stuff, that will happen. Not till then. And new furniture. I was disappointed there was no new furniture, except if you bought the Founders Pack. Like everything that got added was returning or old. And again, this could just be related to the Broodmother. Like I said, if you go in creative mode right now, you'll be able to go ahead and spawn in all of the Broodmother furniture. But there's a lot missing. Like we haven't got one new furniture piece made out of any of the new creatures. We have got stuff from Was, but again, that's old. So you get the idea. Hopefully that should arrive. I'm still a bit salty, yeah. That didn't arrive with this update, but it is what it is. Next though, Everchar Grill. Now, at first I was thinking this has got to be useless. Why would we want this? Like who wants to cook 10 pieces of maybe, you know, bugs and aphids and stuff? So I actually think this might be a way that we can create different types of meals. And I've been praying and hoping there could be a way it could lead to custom meals. But to be honest, the way it's labelled as a grill does make me think it is going to be something that just cooks things quicker. At best, maybe it can give us a bit of an edge if we add some sort of spice or fresh or sour to it as almost flavouring. And that could give you boosts in terms of attack damage maybe. I don't know. I would assume if they were going to do custom meals and things, it would be in the shape and form of an oven, and we've kind of already got that. And yeah, if it just ends up we can cook 6 pieces of raw bugs, I'll be pretty disappointed. Oh, one thing that is in the works is another jerky rack, a tier 2 jerky rack, which will have more spaces. Now that's the kind of upgrade I'm looking for. And then yeah, you can see the tool set, Buggy Racing, like I said earlier, that'll be added for Playgrounds mode. So then videos I showed you of being a bug and how to be a bug or play as a bug that we found, it looks like it was true. They are going to be adding some of that stuff, and they was messing around with cameras to see what it would look like. These are going to be proper widgets with a start and end time, timers and checkpoints that you'll be able to lay out on your own courses. This is absolutely going to be exciting. Like, this is a huge, imagine being able to set up these kinds of things. It's exactly what Playgrounds needs, and yeah, it's going to be amazing. Obviously not strictly play as a buggy, but I'm guessing that it is kind of the same deal, because that's all you're doing when you're seeing these bugs move around, or when you're controlling your buggy. You're just making the characters invisible. And that's more or less it. Obviously we've got the summer update and future plans, but there's not too much been added, just maybe a few things slightly changed. Steam Deck crossplay is coming in summer. Zip lines has always been scheduled for then. We knew about watery buggies, watery creatures and stuff like that, which I've gone over before, so I don't want to waste your time now. One thing to note, that Smoothies has been removed though. They did have Smoothies 2.0 and they've done that already in this update with the ability to go ahead and make your own different types of smoothies that enhance and boost your abilities using some of the new resources like pumpkins, or I should say pumpkins. But yeah, still can't lie, it was a bit disappointing to only get 2 smoothies, and one of which you can't really craft because you can't find some of the corn dog pieces. They should have used pretzel, because boy, that is the worst food going when it dehydrates you. And yeah, no more news about any new classes. They've spoken that they're going to add a healing class, but that doesn't look like it's going to happen for a good while. And they've added new tool sets, so again, that's all going to be part of Playgrounds in the future as well. So the future's bright, the future's grounded too. Let me know what you think about the actual roadmap, what's listed, what you think about my speculations, what are your own? As always, Ratbags, I'll catch you for more info, news, gameplay, leaks and more of Grounded 2. Bye bye.